level commitment to sustainability. In 2017, I was employed as sustainability officer, and that was the first time that there was a full-time role within the university for sustainability or the green agenda. In 2018, then we were awarded a gold star from the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education. And I'll talk a little bit about that later, because that was a real kind of turning point in terms of how we benchmark ourselves against other universities. And in 2020 now, we're celebrating 10 years since we were awarded the first green flag. And we're working, or we had been working a lot on SDG leadership so actually with the City Council, we had started a series of conversation cafes at the City Council and with local business leaders in Cork around sustainability and how we could all work together to deliver the Sustainable Development Goals. So that unfortunately is on hold at the moment, but it will resume. So these are our students. This was at the climate change protest last September, and it was on the quad in UCC, so the centre of UCC campus. So again, we have an incredibly engaged student body. We have students who demand of us that we change constantly, that we improve constantly, that we make decisions with environment in mind constantly. And that's what kind of keeps us going. But we have to feed back to them, and we have to deliver change on the ground to them in order to keep them engaged. You'll very quickly lose your student involvement if you're not actually delivering change on the ground. And that's the kind of balancing act of Green Campus that we've been working on over the years. So just very briefly, most of you probably are well aware of all this. I just wanted to mention carbon footprint because, again, this is what the students are interested in as well. This is what they want to talk about. They want to know what our carbon emissions are and what we're doing to reduce them. So our Scope 1 emissions, those that are produced on site, our Scope 2, the electricity that we bring in. So basically our electricity and heating all within that Scope 1 and Scope 2. And then Scope 3 is everything else. So then if we look at the university, this is the carbon footprint for a typical university. Now we are in the process of refining our own carbon footprint, but it's not ready to be shown yet. But what you can see from this slide is that actually those Scope 1 and Scope 2 activities only account for about a quarter of our carbon footprint. So our travel, our procurement, everything, all the goods and services that we buy, all those lovely new buildings that we build, they all have massive impact on our carbon emissions. So, when we talk about engaging students in energy, engaging students in waste, engaging students in travel, really what we need to be doing is a real integrated approach, looking at our carbon emissions and what impact all those different activities are having on them. And so talking more in terms of carbon. That's what students really are engaged with and interested in. So just, I suppose, a little bit of the science on engaging our communities. This is something that we turn to a lot when we're looking at the different activities that we're running, the different campaigns and projects. And this is a model that was developed by the Scottish Government to influence human behaviour. And it's basically saying that you need to work at 3 different levels if you want to actually change an individual's behaviour. So you have to work at their own individual level, looking at their own emotional, their own values, their beliefs, how empowered are those individuals. Then you look within their social circle, who are the people around them that have the power, what are the kind of norms within their local environment, who are the opinion leaders in their groups, whether that's their class, whether that's their group of friends, whether that's the club or the society that they're involved in. And then also you have to work on the material level. So you have to provide the infrastructure to help people change their behaviour. You can't expect someone to change their recycling behaviour if you don't provide the correct bins and the correct signage. It's very simple, we all know that. But this is a really good model to go back to, and you'll see it kind of referenced a little bit in some of the projects that we've done. So I've kind of pulled out a few of the general lessons over the years from how we've engaged students on campus, the frameworks that we've used, and basically the kind of enablers that I think have brought us to where we are and what we are now in UCC, the kind of ecosystem that we have and the living laboratory approach that we're trying to bring to campus more and more in the last year or so. So a couple of you mentioned Green Schools, so you're probably well aware of the Green Flag programme. It's an international programme run by the Foundation for Environmental Education in Copenhagen. It was originally developed for primary and secondary schools, but like I said, it was in UCC that students decided to bring it to third level. It's operated currently now in 67 countries worldwide, and Green Campus is in 14 countries. There's a few things that really kind of stand out from the Green Flag programme for me that makes it really successful. First of all, that it requires the commitment of all stakeholders. So you can't even start to run the Green Flag programme. The operators in your national country will not let you begin on the Green Flag programme unless you have buy-in from everyone on campus. It's a 7-step programme. It's continual improvement. So you're not comparing yourself with other institutions. You're comparing yourself with how you were last year. What was your performance last year, the year before? Have you improved? And it's a really simple framework. So a 5-year-old can follow it, a 25-year-old can follow it. It works very well. This is the 7-step programme. Like I said, the first step is forming a committee that has to be representative of all stakeholders. So in UCC, we have to have our students, we have to have our academic staff, our professional staff, our contractors, all of those people represented on our committee. And I'll go through each of these steps kind of when I talk about the programme, but basically you review where you are, you develop an action plan, you continually monitor, you link it to the learning on your campus, you link it to the wider community, and you develop your Green Charter then, which is your overall commitment to sustainability on campus. So most schools then, and I'm not sure how you've undertaken this initially, but in the primary and secondary level, most schools would take a thematic approach. So they might decide one year that they're going to look at waste, the next year they're going to look at energy, the next year they're going to look at biodiversity. Again, going back to what I said about carbon emissions, about engaging the wide campus population, we didn't take that thematic approach. We addressed every single theme from day one. Because we have a lot more resources in a university, we have people whose job it is to look after energy, whose job it is to look after the green space on campus. So we addressed everything from day one. So it's flexible in that way that you can decide what your strengths are, you can work to those strengths, but you need to be making an improvement in order to then get the green flag. So this is our sustainability strategy then, which was launched in June 2016. So again, we've been working away on Green Campus for a long time up to that point. So it had been very much the student-led, the student-focused side of things up to this point. And then the sustainability strategy was the management, the higher levels within the university committing to sustainable development. I suppose at this point, we saw it as something that we had a strength in, and the Sustainable Development Goals had been launched in 2015. So then this was the next obvious step. And this strategy covers everything that we do in UCC. So our teaching and our learning, our research, the research that we do, and also how we do it. Our food that we eat, our, the health and well-being of our staff and students, our green space management, obviously our waste, our energy, the procurements, the contracts that we bring in, and I'll talk a bit about those in a bit as well, and obviously how we get to and from campus. So this is all that's where our action plan then comes from, and that's where we need to be delivering on each year. So yeah, like I said, I've tried to pull out a few of what I think are kind of the enablers, I guess, and what's made us successful over the years. And the first one obviously is the people. And it's individuals acting collectively to really achieve incredible things. So we have our Green Campus Committee, like I mentioned. Now that committee in UCC is really the student-driven side of things. So the Green Campus Committee is chaired by the Deputy President of our Students' Union, and it's within the constitution of our Students' Union that every year the Deputy President has to chair that committee. and then it's co-chaired by the president of our environmental society. And that committee really is campaign-led. So our students are only around for a very short time each year. They're in September, and by the end of November, they're concentrating on their exams. They're back in at the end of January, and by the end of April, they're thinking about exams again. So you have a very short window. So we do lots of campaigns, lots of small little projects with that Green Campus Committee. And that's one of the real challenges of sustainability in higher education, is maintaining the student engagement despite the short amount of time they're on campus for. So then we have a Green Forum, and the Green Forum is kind of the higher level, kind of the strategic oversight of what we're doing. So the Green Forum is chaired by our Deputy President and by the Director of our Buildings and Estates Department. The Green Forum sits twice a year. There are students on that forum as well, but that's where we discuss long-term activities. Where are we going? What are our priorities? The Green Forum would have been where the sustainability strategy emerged from. And then we also have a sustainability review group, which is all those people that are responsible for different aspects of sustainability in their work. We meet every 6 to 8 weeks, and that's where we really review, okay, where are we on our targets? Where are we on our action plan? Are we delivering change on the ground? Because like I said, if we're not delivering change on the ground, we lose the engagement of students and staff, actually. Just take a... As I said to Brian earlier, I'm a little bit rusty. So then, you know, when I talk about the importance of people in what we do, you know, this is our ISO 50001 framework that we use for energy management on campus. And I know Antonio talked about, you know, people and technology and not really being able to determine the impact of each of those. And I don't think you can, actually, because it's definitely one of those situations where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So this is our Save scheme, which is part of our ISO 50001 framework. And this is a scheme that was developed by our energy manager, Pat Megan, who I think is listening in as well. And it's a revolving fund where we went to our significant energy using buildings. We said to them, this is how much you spend each year on your energy bill, on lighting, heating, all of that. We're going to give you that budget up front, and whatever savings you make, you get to keep, but those savings need to be reinvested in other environmental projects. So the energy manager, Pat, then supports that team. So a team is set up within that building. They're supported by the energy manager to look at the different kind of infrastructural changes that can be made. We've done things like occupancy detection so that we can turn off lights on different floors. We've changed out lots of the older infrastructure, changed out light bulbs. We put in air curtains to improve the heating within buildings. We've done all those technological fixes, but because we have teams within the buildings that are monitoring these every day, that are feeding back to us, that are keeping us in the loop, and that know that there's a financial reward for them at the end, it really, really works. And we've made huge savings. So, for example, within our library building, which was the first building that we looked at for this scheme, I'm trying to remember now, the number has gone out of my head, but huge savings, tens of thousands of euro in savings in energy over the years that we've done that project. And the money then goes into other environmental projects. So in our library, they put the money into a waste reduction initiative. And basically what we've seen is that we far exceeded our national targets for energy efficiency, but we've also reduced the actual energy consumption as well, the absolute numbers. So we've done really well with that Save scheme. It's one of those examples, I think, of where technology and people brought together can have a huge impact. Then I've mentioned the other kind of enabler, I would say, is maintaining that activism in the student body. So like I said, Green Campus came about because students wanted to be involved. They wanted to have some role in environmental management on campus. They wanted to have a say. And after a few years, the university kind of took this on board very strongly, and the university has really made sustainability part of our brand in some ways, and we have the sustainability strategy, and we're doing really well in all of the international rankings. And then it's a balancing act to keep that student activist spirit going, to keep them working on their campaigns, to keep them feeling empowered, while you also have the big university, the top dogs talking about sustainability and how sustainability is part and parcel of UCC. So that's a real balancing act. And we've done that through, again, having real tangible examples of where we've made changes on the ground. So there in the bottom left-hand corner, you've got our community garden. So any student or staff member can go to that garden. It's completely managed by the UCC community. We have very little involvement in it from an estate's point of view. It's their garden, they use it, they run workshops up there, they run courses, and it's really a kind of a democratic activity in UCC. I mentioned already the student protest. So again, we got all the students onto our main quad. We got the president and the deputy president out to speak to them. But the students spoke. The students were in charge of that day, and this is us saying to them, your voice matters. We're listening to you. I mentioned, so the photo there with the disposable cups, you're not coming in, that's our library building. So I mentioned the huge savings they made in their energy in the Save Your Save scheme. So they used that then to roll out a whole project on waste reduction. So the library went completely binless, and they completely got rid of all disposables from their building as well. And again, this was a real kind of an on-the-ground example of a commitment from UCC where we're saying, actually, we're going to do something that's tough. We're going to make hard decisions here because it's better for the environment. And that really got students engaged. So it's that kind of activist spirit that you need to kind of maintain and support. And again, so we have a whole, this is just an example. I know Darcy spoke in Cork, Darcy from the Union of Students in Ireland. So they ran a whole student switch off campaign around energy use and student accommodation, which was a Europe-wide project. Actually, I think the Italian Union of Students was involved in that as well. So again, we support those kind of projects wherever we can. Anything that comes from the students and is for the students and makes the university a more environmentally friendly place, we try to support. The other thing I mentioned a few times about, the high level commitment from the university, and this is really, really important as well in kind of leading by example, I suppose. So we do have a sustainability strategy, but sustainability is also included in all of our other university policies and strategies. We have divested from fossil fuels. We've signed up to the principles of responsible investment. So we're saying that not only are we not going to invest in fossil fuels, but all of our investments should have a positive environmental impact. And it's more than being green as well. So we're a university of sanctuary, which means that we award scholarships to asylum seekers and refugees. We have a Tina Swan programme on gender equality and a gender identity policy as well. So this is the kind of broad side of sustainability, and this is the university from the very top echelon saying, yeah, this is what we're about actually, and we're going to put pen to paper and say that we, we commit to these kinds of changes in how we work. So I mentioned procurement back when I talked about the carbon footprint, and again, it's one of the highest impact areas, I would say, is getting sustainability into those procurement contracts that we have. And this, again, is what brings about that change on the ground that then keeps the students engaged. So I've been at meetings where students have come and they've talked about procurement contracts and what kind of criteria we're getting into them. They really are engaged and they're really interested in this because they see that actually for an institution like UCC, our power in many ways is in the money that we spend. So we do have procurement strategy, and sustainability is one of the 6 principles there. I sit on, so this, a lot of the big kind of projects that we've had over the last few years have come back to sustainability being included within our catering contract. So our caterers have to deliver sustainability projects. I sit on our restaurant committee, which meets about every 2 months to discuss with our caterers what are the next projects going to be. And so that's why, for example, we now have a completely single-use plastic-free cafe on campus. That was the first of its kind in Ireland. That was the caterers saying, okay, we're going to remodel this cafe, we're going to take out all of the single-use plastic. They did all of this. I had very little involvement in setting up the single-use plastic-free cafe because I don't know much about how cafes work. Our catering contractors know how cafes work. And we worked together to try and bring about this completely single-use plastic-free, both for the customer, but also back in the kitchen. All of the supplies coming in were all in reusable containers, and that's had a huge impact. We've had, across the campus, we've been getting rid of disposable cups, giving out free reusable ones, discounts then for the students if they use their reusable cup. We've a farm to fork program, so a lot of our vegetables are actually grown on our own university farm, and our catering company again manage that completely. And they run these kind of farm stands as well then on campus where they sell some of the vegetables too. So this has all come about because we have caterers that A, procurement is part of their contract, but B, they're interested in it as well and they want to do these kinds of things, and that works really well. So we've also had our most recent printing contract had sustainability as part of it, and now we've gone to completely, so it's all shared print management across campus, and the printers themselves actually are made from 80% recycled material. Our most recent energy contract, so our electricity now is all 100% renewable, because again we had that sustainability and within the contracting process. So that's one of the biggest impact areas that we've had actually. And the students see this, they see the change from this on the ground, and they think, oh yeah, okay, Green Campus, they're actually doing something, so I'm going to get involved with that. Again, small projects can have a huge impact. So this is our Wildflower Meadow. So any of you from Cork may have seen this if you've been walking past. This is the lower grounds of UCC. And about 2 years ago, we made a decision to sign up to the All-Ireland Pollinator Plan and to change the way that we manage our green space. So across campus now, we've reduced the amount of mowing that we do so that we have more wildflowers for pollinators. But this space then is a huge area on our lower grounds where we've let go completely wild. And it's gotten an incredible response from our staff and students who just absolutely love it. And the tweet up there in the top right hand corner is our new Prime Minister last year, who was driving past, saw this and said, wow, this is amazing, we need to get this in Leinster House, which is where the Irish Parliament is. So something that's actually quite small like that didn't really require much investment has had an absolutely huge impact. All the universities are doing this now. I know a lot of the councils in Cork City Council are signed up to the All-Ireland Pollinator Plan as well. So people see a large institution like UCC taking a stand like that and saying, yeah, we don't mind if places look a bit wild if it's better for the environment, and has a huge impact more broadly then. So another thing so I mentioned our stars. So we were awarded a gold star from the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education in 2018. We're the only university outside of North America to have that. And one of the reasons why we decided to go for a stars assessment was because it is the most comprehensive assessment of sustainability in higher education. So what you're seeing here, this kind of spidergram, is how we scored in that stars assessment. So you can see, we like to talk about how great we are a lot. We're from Cork. Anyone from outside Ireland will know that Cork people love to talk about how brilliant they are. But we're not perfect by any means. We've a long way to go. So you'll see, for example, there on our buildings, we're doing quite badly. So the blue line is close into the centre. That means that we're not really we don't stand up against our peers really when it comes to the sustainability of our buildings. That's mainly because we're comparing, within this assessment, you're being compared with universities in the US, where they have a lot of new buildings. We have a lot of old buildings, as an awful lot of European universities would have. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be working to improve that score. Again, water is an area where we've fallen down over the years. So we're doing a lot now. We've signed up with Irish Water to run their water stewardship programme. So I just wanted to put this up because another kind of key principle, another thing that keeps people engaged, that gains trust of our community, is that we're totally transparent. So this STARS assessment is all available online. If you Google UCC STARS report, you'll find all of the data that we put in to get that gold star. And that's really, really important to us, that we are looking broadly across all aspects of sustainability, and we're being really open about what we're doing. And then another kind of enabler, I suppose, which is part of that Green Schools 7 steps, is linking in with the curriculum. And when we talk about linking with the curriculum in UCC, we're talking about the core curriculum, so including sustainability within all of those modules and courses that exist in UCC. Also what we call the hidden curriculum, so basically everything that students do outside of the lecture hall. So students are learning constantly when they're on campus, and so are our staff. So all of these Green Campus events, these engagement activities, that's all considered learning on campus. And then co-curriculum, so other modules, other kind of means of taking courses that students can do to learn more about sustainability. And we have an academic strategy which outlines all of this, which is looking to develop our whole university curriculum as a connected curriculum with sustainability, one of 6 key elements of that connected curriculum. So at the moment, we're actually working on a project. We got funded from the National Forum for Teaching and Learning. It's part of that connected curriculum work where we are going to develop a toolkit, an online toolkit for our UCC teaching staff to help them to embed the Sustainable Development Goals within all of their teaching, within all of their modules. That project started, we hired a research support officer the day before we locked down. So he's working away. It's a 9-month project. We'll have the toolkit developed hopefully in March of next year, and that'll be an open access toolkit that any university can access and use as well. We have a university-wide module, which I know Brian took this year, and it started in 2016, so it's in its 4th year now. Really, really popular module. It's open to students, staff, and the general public. All about sustainability in your own individual life, bringing it into to what you do, to your home life, your work life, your community, and completely interdisciplinary, so taught by academic staff from across all of the colleges in UCC. So finally, I suppose then we have, this is the kind of what we call finding new entry points. So this is getting people who maybe wouldn't be engaged in sustainability more interested, you know. So looking at kind of different ways of approaching things, different ways of making people aware of what Green Campus does on campus. Like I said, we have 21,000 students. We have a lot of very engaged students, but we also have a lot of students that have other priorities. So for example, down in the bottom left-hand corner there is the green wall that we put into the library building that was purchased with the money that they saved from their energy consumption, and it's in the 24-hour reading room in our library. So when students are in that reading room at 4 a.m. in the morning studying for their exams, feeling pretty miserable, they can look at that living wall and think, okay, yeah, it's Green Campus, that's kind of cool. We have our own bees on campus, and we harvest our honey, our alma nectar honey. Like I mentioned, a lot of the food activities that we do is about engaging the whole UCC community. So every student that eats in our main restaurant is eating vegetables from our farm, and we've got lots of signs up there telling them about it. We also run projects with our gallery on creativity and climate change, things like that with local schools. So, you know, different ways of looking at it. And the whole aim really is to be this kind of living laboratory. So addressing real world sustainability challenges on campus in stakeholder partnerships. This is really seen as kind of best practice for universities in regards to sustainability. And we do have, so we launched a Green Campus Living Lab programme last year. We put up some funding for projects. So we currently have an MSc student working on the kind of behavioural aspects of our plastic-free campaigns. We have a number of demonstration projects. So we've got a deposit return scheme going on takeaway boxes in our restaurants. We've an open arboretum project, which is giving students and staff tours of our amazing trees on campus. Our international office run a swap shop for their students. We've a project around wellbeing in green space, how people are using our green space for exercise, and on reuse of office equipment and furniture. So really, I suppose what it kind of has come to is that we've had this kind of bottom-up approach from the students at the very beginning, that kind of activist spirit that I was talking about. Then the university management come along with their kind of strategies and the top-down, I guess, commitment from them. And the feedback between those two then has seen kind of flourishing within our like mid-levels, I suppose, of the green teams within those buildings, within the SEUs. And this is kind of what we see as our ecosystem of sustainability within UCC, and this is the balancing act that I try to coordinate every day. So we say our kind of motto is that we're student-led, research-informed, and practice-focused. It would be completely, you know, I'm telling the truth to say that we've had a complete institutional transformation over the last 12 years, which was completely inspired by students and then enabled by the leadership. The Green Flag and ISO 50001 have kind of been the frameworks that have guided us. And then we've had recognition in a lot of international metrics, which has helped as well in getting that kind of buy-in from all stakeholders on campus. And so just to conclude, it's been a very successful campaign over the 12 years. The Green Flag programme has been a very flexible framework to work with. The continual improvement aspect of it, I think, has kept people engaged and involved. I know it was said about, you know, the impact beyond campus, and that's something that we need to work on more. That's kind of our, I would say, one of our priorities now over the next few years. Is that great, you know, we're doing well in our engagement on campus. We need to work better with engaging off campus and increasing that impact. You know, but it's come from our students. Our students have led it. This was in a national newspaper last year, basically saying that you know, if Ireland was a country, we'd be considered one of the most responsible, environmentally responsible nations on earth. And that's all down to the students, you know, what they've done to bring this in place in UCC. But the other thing that's really important is to not put all of the responsibility onto those students. So we had some secondary school students on campus back in February. They all came and spoke at our big celebration event, and you know, this was one of the quotes from them that struck me most on the day, which was just, you know, that these kids saying, "I wish that children could fix their own mistakes and not the mistakes made by previous generations." So we have a huge responsibility for our young people, that we need to act and we need to deliver change on the ground if we want them to really be engaged and to trust us and to believe us. And that's it. So I'll finish, yeah, okay.
Great stuff, Maria. Thanks very much for a very informative presentation. There's a bit of echo going on there somewhere. So any questions? We'll hand it over there for questions if anybody has questions. Or if you want to put them in the chat, we can deal with. I should have said that at the start. We can deal with them through the chat. If I was asking Maria, in terms of engaging with communities in UCC, what would be the top 3 tips you would give someone in terms of engaging with communities to reduce energy consumption and to increase awareness?
I would say you need to get out into the community, meet people, sit down with them, have a cup of tea, talk to them. you need to treat them like, you need to respect them. People have an awful lot of knowledge, and I think we can tend to go in and say, oh, have you heard about this new amazing thing that we're going to do? And these people are thinking, oh, I've heard this all before, and someone just like you has been here last year. So listen to what they already have done, what their own experiences are, and try to empower them. So nothing would work for us if we just went around saying we're going to do this, this, and this, and that's it. Like, you've no choice in the matter. It's all about us going out to the teams, going out to our students, sitting with them and saying, what do you think we should do here? Okay, how can we help you do that? And meanwhile, we're working away in the background doing our own thing. And then you share, like, you have your own kind of projects that will work, and then you share those good stories with everyone. Does that make sense? You're muted, Brian.
And when you're sharing information with the student body at large, is that done through leaflets, email, pamphlets?
Everything. And again, so we do our own newsletter that we send out to staff, and we try to get out to students as well. But a lot of it, so we have our, I guess, a really important thing is to identify your champions within your community. So we have our champions within the student community, we have our champions within our staff community. So we'll prepare all of that, all those resources, we'll do the planning, and then we'll go to the champions and we'll get the information out through them.
Okay, thank you very much, Maria. Jim McGeever has a question.
Yeah, a quick one about your progress over the years, which has been quite impressive. How much of the work you do is being transferred onto other universities in Ireland, and how much of a kind of a collective kind of gathering do you have of like-minded students and individuals within the education system to make what you're doing stand out on a higher level by having a lot more universities doing the same and learning from you?
Yeah, we have a good network now. The higher education landscape in Ireland is very competitive, and has been, that's kind of been the experience up until recently. And the last couple of years, there's been more people put into universities and institutes of technology in Ireland, more sustainability officer positions. And we now have networks where we do share a lot of our information with one another. So we have the Green Campus Ireland network, the Irish Universities Association have a sustainability officer network. And for the students, then the USI, again, so the Union of Students in Ireland, in the last couple of years have really taken on sustainability as well, where they wouldn't have up until that point. So that's been a recent development, I would say. But yeah, I don't know, Fiona, have you thoughts on that?
I mean, my point is, I think with what I see is generally society is becoming defined by factions and almost competing against each other as small factions, trying to get their awareness within a highly competitive society for a voice to be heard. We sometimes lose the willingness, I think the willingness is the word, to behave on a greater good level.
Yeah, definitely.
To seek that we can do more together than competing against each other to be our own defined leaders. That's all.
Yeah. What we have now as well, what's happened in the last couple of years, is that Times Higher Education have brought out an impact ranking, which is entirely based on the Sustainable Development Goals, which is a good thing in terms of getting that senior level commitment to sustainability, but it also increases the competition between universities because now there's a ranking involved. So when I said about being really open and transparent with all our data, like we're really trying to not fall into that. But yeah, I think it's something that could be improved on. Yeah.
Okay.
Antonio Santa, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions, actually. Let's start with the first one. First one is related to the spiderweb chart. How did you measure the length of each of the branches of the chart? Was it a survey among users, or did you have some kind of measurement of each of the indicators?
So that's from our STARS report. So STARS is an assessment of sustainability in higher education. It's done by an organization called the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education. They're US based, and it is a huge data collecting exercise. It took us 6 months to gather all the data for that submission. You submit all your data into this organization, and they give you a rating based on where you sit. They have some benchmarks themselves that they've developed, and then others are related to all the universities, where you sit related to all the universities. So that was the score that we got from them. So that's an external scoring system, yeah.
It's a codified scoring methodology.
Yeah.
And so you could have a benchmark with other organizations and compare your spider